There's a woman, Amy Fabrini. She just had a baby, and in her home are all of the unread children's books, the unworn baby clothes, a Winnie the Pooh blanket laying inside a crib where the baby has never slept. Amy Fabrini has an IQ of 72, which is not mentally handicapped. And the state of Oregon has deemed that she is not smart enough to have her own children, even though the state worker that went in to investigate said there's no sign of abuse, there's no sign of neglect, and she's perfectly qualified to have and hold and love her children. Amy is not allowed to have her children. They are currently up for adoption. This is an injustice. Amy and the woman who actually worked for the state and did the analysis, but when she came back to the state and says, no, she should have her children, the state fired her. Trouble in the state of Oregon. In light of Charlie Gard and now Alfie Evans, and in the past it was Justine Pelletier, governments and hospitals are taking children from their parents. And we want to make sure that you are aware of this. We welcome Shireen Hagenbach, her mentor, and Amy Fabrini, the mother who is going through this in Oregon. Amy, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Tell me what's happening to you and what's happening to your children.
So Christopher, my oldest, he was taken into CPS custody almost 4 years ago. And we have been fighting the state for almost 4 years now to get him back, trying to be represented as best as we can, trying to get our story out there, trying to get a lawyer, an attorney that will represent us in court so we can get Christopher back. We have a trial coming up in December to terminate our rights for Christopher. And then Hunter, he was born in February. He was 2 days old. CPS came, took him right from the hospital. I didn't even get to bring him home. So since then, we've been fighting for him as well. We've been getting our story out there to try and find someone that can represent us so we can go up against the state to get our kids back. And we want our story out there so they know that you can get your kids back.
Amy, are you a good mom?
I'm a wonderful mother. I love my boys. I would do anything for my boys.
Sorry, this has caught me off guard. I have a daughter of special needs. And so this has caught me off guard. I'm sorry to be emotional with you. What does it feel like to now have to be on national radio with people discussing your IQ and saying that you're not smart enough to be a mom?
It's been hard, but it's worth it to get my story out there so that people know that you can get your kids back as long as you just fight. Fight for everything you have because your kids are worth it.
Has a lawyer stepped up to help you yet?
I have a court-appointed attorney and an appeals attorney, but I would like to see if I could find someone that's out of state that can better represent me.
Shireen.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing good, thank you.
You worked for the state of Oregon?
So, yes, actually, I was a volunteer. So I'm a professional mediator by trade, and I went there to just volunteer my time in the community. And because of my credentials and education, they put me in the role of caseworker that came into the home and observed visitations with the children.
And what did you observe?
Well, first, I should preface this with I've had over 20 years experience working with children, youth, and families. So my undergrad is in psychology, and I have a ton of certificates regarding safety and health and abuse. And what I found when I came into the home is a home. I found two parents that just loved their child. It was just Christopher at the time. It was last summer. And definitely my first impression was that Amy in particular didn't speak to me very much. She was very insecure.
She didn't what?
she didn't speak to me at first. It took about 4 weeks at least to gain her trust in me as a caseworker. And once she felt comfortable with me in the home, it was clear to see that she had years of, just this unhealthy relationship between her and the state of Oregon when they came in. So, I just had to build that trust up with her. But I just saw a loving environment. There was, they've got the same dog apparently for the last 5 years. There's really nothing going on at all that I discovered other than maybe they were depressed, and that was the only thing that I could see. And obviously, if they had their children back, that depression would have lifted. In the 10 months that I've worked with her, after she's got her voice now. She's fighting. She's really looking for more of an advocate, because we live in a small town here. And that's been the hardest thing for me, is one, to speak out against Child Protective Services and care for my family. My stepdad is a lawyer and judge in town, and my mom's got a pretty high position, so I wanted to protect them, but also stand up for people that don't feel like they have a voice and they're not being heard. So I'm pretty much the lone star out here. And their attorneys are representing them, but, they all know each other here, so I know that they're not being fought for properly.
Her second child has just been taken from her at the hospital at birth. Go ahead, Amy. Did I get something wrong?
Yeah, Christopher was only in our home for like 4 days when CPS came in and took him.
So, Amy, what is the thing, talking to the mother who, remember, is not smart enough to have her own children, according to the state of Oregon? Amy, what caused this? Why did the state come over to your house? What was the complaint?
The initial complaint was that we had an ex-friend that was living with us, and they called CPS and reported that the father, Eric Ziegler, had been neglecting Christopher. He hadn't been picking up on his cues. He wasn't cleaning him properly. And then there was also put in the report that he wasn't properly feeding our dog. That was the first report, and that's why CPS came in and took Christopher.
Okay, and so the woman who came out, Shireen, you were the person that came out with that report?
I am not the first person that came out with the initial report.
Okay, and what did that first report say? That report took the child away?
Yeah, the first report was called in supposedly by a roommate of theirs. And the second report was actually from Amy's father, who was upset that she decided to move in with the father of her child. Okay. So they've just gone with that for the last almost 4 years now. Okay,
now, Shireen, you have been with Amy over the last couple of years. You see her quite often or not?
Yes. So I was placed in the home as a volunteer. I gave my time. So I was placed in the home last May of 2016 and performed weekly visitations for 3 hours apiece with Amy, Eric, and their child Christopher.
Over the last year.
So it was from May of 2016 until August of 2016 when their attorney asked for my observations because Child Protective Services was not releasing them.
And Amy, when was the birth date of your second child?
February 16th of 2017.
February of 2017?
Yes.
So, Amy, I have to ask you a tough question, because this is what the people who are against you say, that you didn't know that you were pregnant until you had your child. And they find that unreasonable. It has happened before with people who are supposedly intelligent, but it is difficult to not know that you're pregnant. Can you tell me about that? Is that true? What happened?
That was when I didn't know I was pregnant with Christopher. And I didn't. All I thought was, because I have kidney issues, it's been passed down through my family. So when I was getting these pains in my side, I just thought it was my kidneys acting up. I had no indications that I was pregnant. I didn't have any movement or anything.
And when you had when you weren't having your period, is that normal for you?
Yes.
And were you growing in size? Did you look pregnant?
No.
Shireen, can you help me out on that?
Yeah, so Amy's figure it's just always been the same ever since I've met her, actually. And when I came into the home last summer, we didn't know at the time, but she was just beginning, her pregnancy for the second child. And she's stayed the same since the first time I've met her until today. She looks exactly the same. So, and she did give birth in February. I'm not, how big are you? What is your size about?
We don't have to get into that. We don't have to get into that. Please, let's.
Yeah, so it's something where you just you don't notice. It's just, it's the way that she's built. But she did know she was pregnant with Hunter, the second child. And we discussed extensively about her coming forward, but they just had an incredible amount of fear that the state would take their child. So, which they did. Yeah.
So your aunt, Amy, agrees with you and your husband and Shireen that
Yes, it does.
your children are now up for adoption by the state.
Christopher is.
How do you feel about that?
I don't feel it's right. He shouldn't be put up for adoption. He should be with us. It's completely wrong.
Shireen and Amy, how can we help you? Is there anything, first of all, that I've missed?
Well, I would like to advocate that Amy and Eric have remained together. They live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It's owned by Eric's father. And they've taken extensive courses on parenting, what abuse and neglect looks like, health and fitness. I mean, they are very proactive in showing the courts that they want to learn what they want them to learn. And they're proving to the courts and to everybody around here that they're very capable of. The IQ that is given, is debatable anyways. That can be subjective to depression, all kinds of things. But she's very articulate. They're very sweet. They're very kind. And what could help them is finding good representation to help them advocate for their rights to have their children. That is truly what we're looking for this family.
How do they get in touch with you?
They can go to either my website or they can contact me via email.
Give me the information right now. Yeah.
Okay. So my website is www.actionnow.com, but it's spelled with a K. So it's AKTIONNOW.com.
Okay.
And my email address is support@actionnow.com.
Shireen, thank you for, you're in a small town and you have apparently a very visible family, and it takes guts to stand up and to do it with class and grace. And it sounds like you're doing that, and God bless you for standing up. Amy Fabrini, we will not forget you, and we will further this story on any platform that I have to do with, and I will do everything I can to help you out. I wish you all of the best, and we'll talk to you again soon. Back in just a second. God bless you. And I can't imagine what it would be like to have to defend your intelligence and have everyone calling you stupid, when most likely that's the way you have felt your whole life anyway. And all of the cruel remarks that probably came your way through your whole life, to now have a child and have it taken from you at the hospital when there is no sign of abuse nor neglect, is an injustice that is beyond comprehension to me.